Good day everyone. Our topic for today is all about sampling techniques, probability and non-probability sampling. So let's start. Design of a study. So before we go sa ating sampling techniques, dun muna tayo sa design of a study. Meron tayong dalawang klase ng design of a study. The first one is observational study. It measures specific traits but does not modify the subject of the study. In an observational study, we measure or survey members of a sample without trying to affect them. Okay, so ang goal lang natin dito is i-observe lang talaga natin sila. So wala tayong sasabihin sa kanila na kahit ano. Okay? The second one is experiment. So experiment ay kabaltaran ng study. In an experiment, we assign people or things to group and apply some treatment to one of the groups, while the other group does not receive any treatment. And yung dalawang group na yun, tinatawag natin control and test group. For example, yung research natin ay gusto nating malaman kung yung certain drug o yung medicine ay effective. So ang gagawin natin, kukuha tayo ng sample, hahatiin natin into two groups. We have, ito na nga yun, control and test group. Ang ilalagay natin sa test group, ang ibibigyan sa kanila is yung actual drug. Yung mismong gamot na tinetest natin. While yung nasa control group, ang ibibigay natin sa kanila ay yung tinatawag na placebo. Ano yung placebo? Kumbaga, para siyang capsule, hindi gamot yung nasa loob, kundi parang asukal lang or something na wala naman talagang epekto. Okay. Meron kasi tayong tinatawag na placebo effect. Placebo effect. Yun bang akala nila ay gumaling sila dahil dun sa gamot, pero ang totoo, yung ininom nila ay asukal lang or glucose lang. Kumbaga, wala talaga siyang epekto. So, tinatawag natin placebo effect. Yung topic na to is all about psychology. So, hindi yun ang topic natin. Kaya, let's move on. Pero masaya siyang pag-aralan. So, by the way, let's move on. So, let's have some examples. Number 1. Kailangan i-determine natin kung ito ay experiment or observational. So, number 1. A study took a random sample of adults and asked them about their bedtime habits. The data showed that people who drank a cup of tea before bedtime were more likely to go to sleep earlier than those who didn't drink tea. Now, yung study na to ay under ba siya ng observational or experiment? Ang tanong, nagbigay ba ng treatment yung researcher? And the answer is no. Therefore, yung ganitong klase ng study ay under ng observational. Kasi wala namang ginawang treatment dun sa ating mga sample. Now, another example. Another study took a group of adults and randomly divided into two groups. One group was told to drink tea every night for a week, while the other group was told not to drink tea that week. Now, researchers then compared when each group fell asleep. Now, since nagbigay sila ng treatment, iginroup pa nila, minodify nila yung subject, so ang ibig sabihin, this study is under ng experiment. So, hopefully, nakuha natin yung difference nila. So, let's move on. Sampling method. Now, we are under in a research. So, kukuha tayo ngayon ng mga pag-aaralan or what we call the sample. Tanong, paano tayo kukuha ng sample? Kung meron tayong population, hindi natin lahat maisasama sa pag-aaralan natin yung buong population. So, syempre, kukuha lang tayo ng tinatawag nating sample. At yung sample ay kinuha natin doon sa ating population. Okay? So, when you conduct research about a group of people, it's rarely possible to collect data from every person in that group. Instead, you select a sample. So, imposibleng makuha natin lahat ng impormasyon sa buong population, kaya kukuha lang tayo dun sa sample na kinuha natin sa population. Okay, paano ba natin sila kukuhanin, yung mga sample na yun? To draw valid conclusions from your results, you have to carefully decide how will you select a sample. So, yun yung gusto nating malaman. Paano ka pipili ng sample? Okay, so meron tayong two types ng sampling methods. The first one is what we call the probability sampling. So, it involves random selection, allowing you to make statistical inferences about the whole group. When we say the word random, pag nabasa natin yung word na random, ang ibig sabihin niyan is not biased. Or simply, each member of the population has an equal chance of being selected in your sample. So, walang special. Kumbaga, lahat ay merong equal chance na maging parte ng iyong sample. Next, we have non-probability sampling. It involves non-random. So, kanina ay random. Ito naman is non-random. Non-random selection based on convenience or other criteria, allowing you to easily collect initial data. Pero hindi siya random. Kumbaga, yung non-probability sampling ay may pagka-bias. So, let's discuss probability sampling methods. Probability sampling means that every member of a population has a chance or equal chance of being selected. So, meron tayong apat na main type of probability sampling. So, we have the first one, simple random sampling. The second is systematic sampling. Third is stratified sampling. At yung pang-apat is clustered sampling. So, discuss natin yung number 1. Simple random sampling. So, paano ba ginagawa tong simple random sampling? In a simple random sample, every member of a population has an equal chance of being selected. Your sampling frame should include the whole population. So, to conduct this type of sampling, you can use tools like random numbers generator or other techniques that are based entirely on chances. So, ito yung mga example. Kung natatandaan nyo, gumagamit tayo ng wheel para pumili sa recitation. So, yun ay random. Kasi hindi ko alam kung sino matatawag. Okay, another example is yung fishbowl method. Paano naman yung fishbowl method? So, gagawa kayo ng isang lalagyan. Sulat nyo yung mga pangalan nyo sa isang papel, ilalagay nyo dun sa lalagyan, and then, bubunot. So, sino yung mabunot, siya yung parte ng sample. So, ibig sabihin, lahat kayo ay mayroong equal chance na maging parte ng sample. Okay? And the second example is using roulette wheel. So, kung meron teacher na gumagamit nito, so, ang tawag doon ay random sampling. Okay? Kasi lahat kayo ay mayroong equal chance na mapili. So, next, systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is similar to simple random sampling, but it is usually slightly easier to conduct. So, paano gagawin natin doon? Every member of a population is listed with a number, but instead of randomly generating numbers, individuals are chosen at regular intervals. So, ano ibig sabihin ng regular intervals? Ito yung another example. So, kung meron kang population, let's say 12, bigyan mo sila ng number, okay, 1 to 12. Next, pumili ka ng number. For example, napili mo ay 3. So, ibig sabihin, kada third person ay parte na ng sample mo. Now, saan ka mag-start? So, pwedeng gumamit ka ng fishbowl method, kuha ka ng number, and then kung nabunot mo ay 2, doon ka mag-start. So, kada third person ay parte na ng sample mo. So, kung example natin dito, yung 2, yung una mong pinili, so sunod na yung 5, sunod yung 8, sunod yung 11. So, in short, yung 4 na mapipili, or kung ilan man yung mapipili mo, ay parte na ng iyong sample. So, ibig sabihin, lahat pa rin sila ay mayroong chance na mapili. Yun nga lang, itong systematic sampling ay may sistema. Kumbaga, mamimili ka ng interval. Kung every third person, every fifth person, every 10th person, so yun ay depende kung ilang sample yung kailangan mo. Okay, so let's move on to the third. Stratified sampling. Stratified sampling involves dividing the population into subpopulations that may differ in important ways. It allows you to draw more precise conclusion by ensuring that every subgroup is properly represented in the sample. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? So, para magamit natin yung sampling method na to, kailangan i-divide natin yung population into subgroups. Ang tawag natin doon is strata. Kung sinabi natin strata, ito ay subgroups or layer. So, kaya meron tayong tinatawag na stratosphere. So, meron layer tayo ng atmosphere. So, based on the relevant characteristics. For example, pwedeng gender, age, range, income, job, and etc. etc. So, let's have an example. So, let's say, ang gusto mong kuhanan ng information is yung nandun sa school system. So, pwede mo silang i-group. Group mo ng mga teachers or mga admin, and then i-group mo sila ng second part, mga senior high, next, mga junior high school, saka mga elementary. Now, ang gagawin mo, kukuha ka dun sa mga admin or sa mga teachers, kukuha ng sample dun sa mga senior high, kukuha ka ng sample dun sa mga junior high, at kukuha ka ng sample dun sa mga elementary para yung makuha mong data ay precise. Okay, so dito, i-group mo sila based on their characteristics. Next, kada characteristics, kukuha ka ng kung ilan yung sample na kailangan mo. At dapat kada layer or kada group ay merong representative. Yun yung stratified sampling. Okay? So, let's move on to the fourth one. Cluster sampling. Cluster sampling is also involves dividing the population into subgroups, but each subgroup should have similar characteristics to the whole sample. Instead of sampling individuals from each subgroup, you randomly select the entire subgroup. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Pag ginroup mo sila, kung ano yung group na mapipili mo, silang lahat na nandun sa grupo na yun ay parte na ng iyong sample. Okay, for example dito, ginroup natin sila into 5 groups. Next, yung dalawang group na napili mo, automatic, lahat sila na nasa grupo na yun ay under na ng iyong sample. Ito namang nasa baba, ang example nito ay 5 groups. Pumili siya ng 3, so automatic, yung 3 group na yun, lahat ng nasa grupo na yun ay under na ng kanyang sample. So, ito ay pangmalakihan. Okay? So, yun yung pinagkaiba ng stratified kay cluster. Si cluster, buong group ay kasama. Pag sinabi nating stratified, kada group na yan, pipili ka lang ng sample sa kada grupo. Okay? So, non-probability sampling methods. Ito naman yung mga hindi random. Okay? In a non-probability sample, individuals are selected based on non-random criteria. Ano ibig sabihin yan? Not every individual has a chance of being included in your sample. So this type of sample is easier and cheaper to access, but it has a higher risk of sampling bias. And you can't use it to make a valid statistical inferences about the whole population. Okay, so please, wag natin itong gagamitin. Kaya sisimplihan lang natin yung discussion dito kasi yung pinaka-goal natin talaga is yung probability sampling methods. Bigay ko lang yung mga ilang example ng non-probability sampling. So, para makita natin na ito ay may bias, hindi kagaya nung nasa una. So, the first one is convenience sampling. Paano sabihin ng convenience? For example, ikaw yung researcher. Siyempre, ang kukunin kong sample yung mga kaibigan ko kasi yun yung pinakamadali sa akin. So, yun yung convenience sampling. Okay, so yun malalapit sa'yo. Next, voluntary response sample. Example na to, kung ikaw yung researcher, tatanungin mo sila, sino yung gustong maging sample? Sino yung gustong sumagot ng aking research? Sino yung gustong sumagot ng aking survey? So, kung sino yung magtaas ng kamay, edi sila yung parte ng iyong sample. Kumbaga, hindi ka mamimilit. Okay? Kumbaga, sila mismo yung naglagay sa kanila being sample ng iyong study. Okay? E paano naman yung mga mahiyain na hindi talaga nagsasalita? So, wala silang karapatan na maging parte ng iyong sample. Kaya ito ay medyo may pagkabias. Kaya hindi natin siya dapat gamitin. Okay? So, the third one is purposive sample. So, sinabing purposive sample ay mamimili tayo based on our purpose. And the last one is noble sample. Okay, paano naman yung snowball sample? Let's say, meron kang dalawang kaibigan. So, kinuha mo sila as sample mo. Ngayon, nasasabihin mo sa kanila, kayo namang dalawa, humanap kayo ng tigalawang sample nyo. O dalawang tatanungin nyo. Or dalawang bibigyan mo ng survey. And susunod, yung kaibigan ng kaibigan nun, pipili naman ng dalawa din. Ang tawag natin doon is snowball sample. And that's all for today. As always, that's it.